Hello guys, here Gab again. Today we are going to talk about a similar video I made a bit ago, and that's about a .NET 8 microservices with minimal APIs, clean architecture, DDD, versioning, and OpenAPI. I know I've made recently videos explaining each one of them, but it's okay to maintain a brief about it. Okay, so let's say most teams build microservices. Your team build microservices. My team build microservices. But we ship APIs that turns into spaghettis within months. It's all confused. It's all wrapped. It's all tangled. It's not okay. So um, the fix it's trying to not implement more patterns. It's have a clear structure of what needs to be done, what layer, uh, which is the purpose of each layer that we are going to have, and that each layer must have one job. Okay, so uh, telling about it, what are we building right now? Uh, to build this with a .NET 8 LTS application, we could use minimal APIs as the transport layer, and we are going to try to maintain what we explained before. If you don't catch it, you can watch previous videos where I talk about a little bit and from my perspective for the clean architecture and DDD. So that's it. Use minimal APIs, maintaining clean architecture and DDD to separate responsibilities. The minimal API help us to keep the API thin, and clean architecture DDD keeps the core protected, because implementing microservices based on one purpose and one database, we try to keep the domain pure as the core and the more independently possible. Okay, so the structure must need be simple and consistent. Okay, the upper layer defines the contracts, the requests, the responses. You can define also the API versioning. You can define also the Swagger and the Open API. For example, if you are exposing a lot of endpoints with a lot of groups of in the minimal APIs with the group and root builder, you separate a lot of them. You expose it with Open API Swagger. You can try it. Then you can export the Swagger JSON to, you can export it, the Swagger JSON to import it then in Postman or Insomnia or whatever. And we try to maintain the endpoints lean. And we also have to remember that the API is where not the business logic is. Okay, that is where, for example, the application layer is. That is the use cases. That's where we can model the command and the queries, because we talked about recently about CQRS. That is command and queries segregation responsibilities. We can also, above the command and queries, we can do here in application, if we want the validation, we can do the orchestration to decide which path to resolve the business inquires. If we need to call something from the infrastructure layer, from a third party or a provider or something else. Okay, this layer, the application layer, is the one that coordinates business operation. We have to keep that in mind. The application is the one that orchestrates and coordinates the business operation. It orchestrates and coordinates the business operation. Is the use cases. coordinates and orchestrates business use cases. It's very, very important. The inner layer, the most inner layer, the pure and the core object of our system is the domain layer, pure business rules. Here is the business itself. It contains the business rules and its invariants, and it's going to stay independent from frameworks and infrastructure. When we are creating a project, and project as each project inside the microservice or the solution is going to be a layer, we could have n and multiple layers. The most common are, as I said before, API, application, domain, and infrastructure. Domain does not or will or must not reference anyone. And then we have finally the infrastructure layer. There in the infrastructure layer we have the technical details. We implement there the entity framework core, the Redis, the HTTP integrations, Azure SDKs, and the infrastructure adapts to the domain model, not the other way around. If we change the infrastructure, we don't need to change the domain. O sea, it does not work that way. If we change the model, if we change the entities, if we change the domain, that's where, well, okay, I have this infrastructure, these providers, I try to adapt what I'm receiving to transform it and then try to manipulate and use the domains we have. So, what's the matter here with the minimal APIs? Why? If we use the minimal API, we treat it as a layer of transport, okay, with fewer boilerplates, more explicit endpoints, and clear pipelines. And none of that breaks the clean architecture pattern because the logic still lives in the domain and in the application. Okay, why this combination works? Because the minimal APIs define and exactly define how you expose your endpoints. What's the purpose, right? Clean architecture defines how dependencies are organized. Remember, in the domain, for example, we define which is or what is the business rules, and with the clean architecture, I was talking about DDD, but with clean architecture, we define the structure, we define the dependencies, we define how we organize the composition of our components, that each component is a project, is a layer. So the manage, the design, the relationship between these components is that the clean architecture. Okay, so one thing is the language we are using, the rules, and so on. That's the DDD. And together between the minimal APIs with the combination between clean architecture and DDD, and the domain, the core is protected. Then that's very, very important. The domain is protected, the application orchestrates, the infrastructure plugs in, and the API stays lean. So the API is thin, must not be fat. Okay, the application orchestrates, the infrastructure plugs in things from the outside or other SDKs or so on, and the domain stays pure. Okay, is protected. When we build this kind of services as microservices, this could scale in complexity without falling apart, because we could have n microservices, each one of them with a business case, and each of them can evolve at its own pace. We have clear boundaries for the teams. If I am a team A that works in 2 microservices and team B works in other 2 microservices, we have clear boundaries of what we are working on. It's easier to testing because we are testing separate business cases, and that's it. So remember, guys, that the minimal APIs, it's for transport only. The architecture does not break with minimal APIs. The domain is pure business rules, and the infrastructure adapts to the model. And we also apply as I said before, open API, versioning, so on, to scale and evolve. Hope this matters. Hope you like it. Give a subscribe, a thumbs up. See you next time.